August 6, 1945, Hiroshima, Japan, 8:15 a.m. The air is still. Cicadas scream in the heat. Over the Motoyasu River, the sky carries no warning, only a blinding summer light. 12-year-old Keiko Tanaka stands outside her schoolyard, barefoot, holding a tin lunchbox filled with barley rice. Her classmates laugh as the air raid siren falls silent. False alarms have become routine. The war feels far away now. Then the world flashes white. For exactly 1 second, everything stops: the sound, the air, even thought itself. Then the blast comes. A wind sharper than steel rips through flesh, glass, wood, and bone. The city disintegrates into fire and dust. Keiko's body is thrown across the schoolyard. When she opens her eyes, she cannot see. The brightness has seared her vision. The ground around her hisses, steam rising from bodies that no longer move. She feels her hair ignite, smells the burnt oil of human skin. Someone is screaming nearby, but the voice sounds far away. Underwater, the sky turns black. The sun is gone. What replaces it is a silent snowfall of ash paper, fabric, bone floating downward like gray petals. A man staggers past, naked, his arms stretched forward, skin hanging in tatters. Keiko tries to stand, but her legs buckle. She calls for her mother. No answer. By 10 a.m., Hiroshima is no longer a city. It is a wound. The blast, codenamed Little Boy. A 15-kiloton uranium bomb dropped from the Enola Gay has flattened 5 square miles. Over 70,000 people are dead instantly. Another 70,000 will die by the year's end from burns, radiation, and infection. Keiko crawls toward what used to be her home. The air tastes metallic, heavy. The rain begins thick, oily, black. It coats her skin, her tongue, her open wounds. The survivors will later call it Kuroi Ame, the Black Rain. Days later, rescue teams enter what remains of the city. They find no living animals. The silence is broken only by human whispers and the cracking of cooling debris. In the ruins of Hiroshima's Honkawa district, UN reconnaissance crews begin taking photographs, recording not only devastation, but something invisible: radiation. The survivors, or Hibakusha, wander like ghosts. Some walk for days, their skin mottled with purple burns. Others carry the bodies of their loved ones to the riverbanks, where pyres burn from dawn to dusk. No one yet understands what has happened. They speak of a new type of bomb, one that kills without fire or shrapnel. Keiko survives barely. Her skin peels away in sheets, her hair falls out in handfuls. In the Red Cross hospital, doctors write notes in English for the American occupation authorities. Symptoms unknown. They record possible poison in the blood. Weeks pass. The surviving children begin to change. Their wounds refuse to heal. Their gums bleed. Fevers return in cycles. Some grow silent, unable to remember their parents' faces. Some begin to die again, long after the fires have gone out. By winter, Hiroshima's ruins have been cleared enough for makeshift classrooms. Keiko sits in one, hairless, her body scarred. She draws on a scrap of paper, a house, a tree, a woman holding her hand. When the teacher asks what it is, she whispers the morning before. She never draws again. The war ends. Japan surrenders. But for Keiko and thousands of children like her, the morning of August 6th never ends. It will live in their blood, their cells, their unborn children. In 1947, American doctors arrive as part of the Atomic Bomb Casualty Commission, ABCC. They set up clinics in Hiroshima and Nagasaki not to treat, but to study. Hibakusha children become data points: height, weight, bone marrow samples, blood cell counts. The survivors call it the second experiment. Each test is done in silence. Needles slide into tiny arms. No one explains why. The children are told they are lucky to be chosen, to be part of history. But history is not kind. Outside the clinic, people still refuse to touch them. Some are forbidden to marry. Others are called contaminated. Employers turn them away. They are told that their blood, their very existence, carries the curse of the bomb. And yet, they grow. They live on in a city rebuilt from ashes, beneath a sky that no longer burns, but never forgets. Hiroshima, 1952. 7 years after the flash, night in the rebuilt city feels both too quiet and too bright. Street lamps hum faintly over flattened lots where once stood neighborhoods. In the shadow of the atomic dome, what remains of the prefectural industrial promotion hall, children gather to chase fireflies. But they notice something strange. Some nights, when the moon is gone and the river is black, their scars seem to shimmer faintly in the dark. Their parents tell them it's an illusion. Yet when Keiko lifts her arm beneath the window light, the thin ridges of her burns glisten with a dim, eerie luminescence. Doctors say it's not light, only radiation reacting with certain medications. The children don't believe that. They whisper among themselves, "We're glowing because we're still burning inside." The ABCC continues its studies, expanding its scope. They come with notebooks, syringes, and portable Geiger counters. Every few months, the children are summoned to the white-walled facility near Hijiyama Hill. They're told to undress, to stand still, to breathe deeply. Photographs are taken front, side, back, then blood. Always blood. American researchers record every measurement: red cell decline, chromosomal aberrations, delayed bone growth. The children don't know these words, but they learn their meaning through pain. Keiko, now 18, often dreams of that morning: the flash, the wind, the soundless roar. She dreams of her mother's hand reaching through the light. When she wakes, her sheets are damp with sweat. Her breath smells faintly of iron. The city calls them Hibakusha no-ko, children of the bomb. But beneath sympathy lies fear. Neighbors whisper that they might be contagious. Matchmakers warn families not to let their sons marry a Hibakusha girl. Her children might be monsters. In one narrow alley of Hiroshima's Naka ward, a boy named Taro hides behind a shop to avoid the jeers of classmates. His face is asymmetrical, one eye clouded from radiation cataract. His father, a former soldier, never speaks of the day the bomb fell. But at night, he kneels before the family altar and mutters, "Forgive me." By 1955, over 20,000 surviving children are registered with the ABCC. The records note alarming trends: growth deformities, anemia, leukemia. The disease appears without warning, healthy one day, collapsing the next. It spreads not through infection, but through time. At the Red Cross Hospital, doctors keep quiet. The American overseers forbid public discussion of atomic sickness. The term Genbaku Bio, the bomb disease, is considered politically dangerous. Families who speak of it risk being labeled subversive, so they stay silent. In the evenings, Keiko walks by the river and listens to the cicadas. Sometimes she passes the Peace Memorial Park, where foreigners place flowers and take photographs. They see Hiroshima as a symbol of peace, of progress, of endurance. But Keiko knows what the cameras cannot see: the private wars still being fought inside human bodies. At the hospital, she volunteers as an assistant to Dr. Haida Shuntaro, one of the few physicians openly caring for atomic survivors. Haida tells her quietly, "The radiation doesn't end when the fires do. It lives in the marrow, in the cells. It waits." That word waits haunts her. Each morning, she helps children with bandaged limbs draw on scraps of paper, many sketch mushrooms towering, white, and terrible. Others draw rivers filled with bodies. A boy named Kenji draws only circles, black and endless. Keiko asks why. He answers, "That's the sun we can't look at." By 1956, the first generation of post-war children, those born to Hibakusha parents, begin showing abnormalities. Some are stillborn. Some live only days. A few survive, but their eyes are sunken, their blood weak. Rumors spread faster than medical truth. Newspapers avoid the topic. American censors still monitor content through the Supreme Commander for the Allied Powers SCAP. Hiroshima's people are told to move on. The children are told to be strong. But strength means silence. In private, Keiko keeps a diary. She writes, "The doctors take our blood, our hair, our tears. They measure us, but they never heal us. They say the war is over, but our bodies still fight it every day." At night, she dreams of walking through a field of glass, where every step cuts her feet but leaves no blood. In the distance, she sees children glowing faintly, waiting for her. She cannot tell if they are living or dead. The next morning, she wakes with her nose bleeding. The pillowcase is stained red. Her hands tremble as she folds it away before her younger brother can see. Outside, the cicadas are screaming again, just like they did on the morning of August 6, 1945. Hiroshima, 1965, 2 decades after the flash. The city has risen from its ashes, concrete towers where wooden houses once stood, neon lights where shadows once burned into walls. Tourists arrive daily now, guided through the Peace Memorial Park, shown the museum exhibits, the melted wristwatch frozen at 8:15, the lunchbox still filled with carbonized rice, the shadow of a man forever imprinted on stone. But beneath this new surface, the old wounds have not healed. They have only gone deeper, hidden in the marrow. Keiko, now 32, sits in the waiting room of the Red Cross hospital. Her hair, which grew back thin and gray at the roots, has begun to fall again. Across from her, a young mother cradles a child, the boy's skin pale, his veins faintly visible beneath translucent flesh. The child coughs softly, a sound like cracking paper. Leukemia. The doctors call it the atomic disease. By the mid-1960s, the number of leukemia cases among Hiroshima's children has surged beyond any known pattern. The survivors call it the white blood curse. The ABCC continues its examinations, but still offers no treatment. They measure, record, categorize. For each death, a new page is added to the archives. Case number 2311. Female. 32. Primary cause marrow degeneration. Exposure probable within 1.2 kilometers of hypocenter. Keiko reads these reports when she can. She has become a quiet activist, part of a group of survivors demanding medical care rather than study. They hold vigils outside the hospital, holding photographs of their lost children. The air smells faintly of incense and old rain. That year, in a small apartment overlooking the Ota River, Keiko's younger brother, Haru, begins coughing blood. He was only 2 when the bomb fell, too young to remember, but old enough to breathe the radioactive dust. Within months, his lungs collapse. On the night he dies, the rain outside turns heavy, just as it did that morning 20 years ago. Keiko does not cry. She watches the river rise and whisper. Later, she donates a lock of his hair to the newly established Radiation Effects Research Foundation, the renamed successor to the ABCC. They promised to preserve it for study, for the sake of science. Science. That word has followed her entire life. It has measured her body, her pain, her blood, but it has never given her peace. In 1968, she travels to Nagasaki to meet others like her survivors, doctors, teachers, mothers of the second generation. They speak softly in a dim hall beneath a church rebuilt from rubble. Some tell of children born blind. Others describe bones that never harden, teeth that crumble before adolescence. A man named Dr. Nagai speaks last. He was in Nagasaki when the second bomb fell. His voice is frail, but his words cut through the air. The bomb is not over. It continues each time a child dies from what cannot be seen. That night, Keiko dreams of her mother for the first time in years. She stands in a field of white flowers that glow faintly under a dead sky. Her mother smiles, touches her cheek, and whispers, "It's not your fault." When Keiko wakes, she realizes she has been holding her breath. Back in Hiroshima, she begins visiting schools, telling her story, not as accusation, but as memory. The children listen, some curious, some uncomfortable. She shows them the small tin lunchbox she found years later near her old home, warped but still intact. Inside, she keeps a handful of gray dust. "This," she says quietly, "is what remains when fire eats the air." The peace memorial ceremony that August draws thousands. Doves are released. Bells ring. But Keiko does not attend. She walks instead to the riverbank, where reeds sway in the humid wind. Beneath her feet lie the ashes of countless children never named. Some nights, when the wind carries the scent of burning incense, she swears she can still hear them, soft voices in the dark, calling out for mothers who never came. The city glows again at night, but it is a man-made light this time, electric and indifferent. Hiroshima has become a symbol of hope. But for those who live in its shadow, hope and sorrow are the same color. Keiko's body weakens. Her blood tests show anomalies the doctors no longer record. The records are full enough. In 1971, she collapses while walking near the T-shaped Aioi Bridge, the bridge the Enola Gay had used as its aiming point. Her last words, overheard by a passerby, were barely audible. "Tell them we were children too." The passerby does not know her name, but her body is found glowing faintly under the neon reflection of the rebuilt bridge. Hiroshima, 1975, 30 years since the flash. The air over the Peace Memorial Park trembles with the low hum of cicadas. Children run past fountains built where ashes once fell, laughing unaware that their laughter carries through a silence older than themselves. The survivors sit apart, small gatherings beneath trees, their bodies thin, their eyes distant. Their shadows fall short in the noonday light. Among them, a quiet man named Kenji sits on a bench near the atomic dome. He was once the boy who drew black circles in the hospital, a survivor of radiation sickness. He is now 40. Though he looks older, his joints ache. His breath comes shallow. He spends most days sketching faces from memory, children he once knew but who never grew up. He never sells them. Each drawing he finishes, he folds and sets adrift on the river. The city has changed, but the silence within it remains. Most of the Hibakusha are gone now: cancer, heart failure, marrow collapse. Their stories survive in fragments: a photograph, a diary, a burned school uniform sealed behind glass. Yet the second generation lives with something quieter, less visible fear. Children born to survivors speak of weakness, of blood that never seems strong enough. Some report persistent illnesses, some infertility. Science debates whether the radiation truly passed through generations. But in Hiroshima's back streets, people no longer ask, they already know. In 1976, a group of survivors and their descendants form a quiet movement, Kodomo no Koi, the voice of the children. They gather testimonies not political, only personal. One tape records an elderly woman speaking softly. "When I held my baby, I thought the war had finally ended. But when he was born sick, I realized the war had come home inside us." Kenji helps archive these tapes, organizing hundreds of hours of whispered confessions. He listens every night, though the words erode him. The tapes hum faintly between pauses, that same electric hum of cicadas. Or perhaps of radiation still lingering in old walls. That same year, he finds Keiko's name in a local obituary record. A small note beside it reads simply, "Died near Aioi Bridge, August 6, 1971. No cause listed." He visits the spot. The river is calm, the water dark. On the opposite bank, a group of school children in white caps drop paper lanterns into the current. The lanterns float toward him, glowing softly. He kneels and whispers, "You didn't vanish, Keiko. You became the light." He leaves a folded drawing beside the bridge, a child standing in a field beneath a burning sky. Years pass. Hiroshima becomes a pilgrimage site. Politicians visit, cameras flash. The city presents its story in clean exhibits and polished English plaques, "Never again." But beneath the plaques lie records never declassified early U.S. studies of radiation victims, detailing experiments conducted without consent, data gathered from Keiko, from Kenji, from hundreds more. The files remain sealed for decades, stamped restricted. Atomic health studies. By the 1980s, only a handful of the original children of the fallout remain. Some speak to journalists, others fade quietly into care homes, their memories dissolving like old film. Kenji continues to draw until his hands fail him. His last piece is different, not black circles this time, but white ones, empty halos. He donates it to the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum with a note. "This is what the bomb left behind. Not ruins, but silence." When he dies in 1987, his sketches are found stacked neatly in his room, each labeled with a name, a date, a distance from the hypocenter, a precise map of pain. The curators decide not to display them. Too raw, they say, too human. Outside, the world has moved on. The Cold War shifts, nuclear treaties are signed, and yet the bombs remain improved, multiplied, perfected. The survivors' warnings dissolve into background noise of progress, but Hiroshima still breathes at night when the wind carries the smell of the river. Some say they can still hear faint voices, not crying, not angry, only whispering the same question again and again. Did it matter? The black rain stopped long ago. The glow faded, but the bones remember. Every cell, every shadow, and somewhere, deep in the soil beneath the Peace Park, fragments of glass still hold the memory of the moment the sun came down to Earth. Hiroshima, 1995. 50 years since the flash, the Peace Memorial ceremony begins at exactly 8:15 a.m. The bells toll once, a sound so soft, so precise, it feels like time itself pauses to listen. Thousands stand in silence, heads bowed. Among them, the few remaining Hibakusha, old now, their skin like thin paper, their eyes reflecting both fire and river light. Keiko's name is etched into the memorial's granite wall, alongside tens of thousands of others. Kenji's drawings, once locked away, have been rediscovered, his black circles and white halos now displayed behind glass, labeled Children of the Fallout. Tourists pass slowly by. Some weep, others only stare. But in the corners of the exhibition hall, away from the cameras, stand a new generation, the grandchildren of the bomb. They were born decades after the explosion, yet its shadow lies quietly within them. Not in their bones, perhaps, but in the shape of their silences. They grow up with stories told in whispers, names never spoken aloud, photographs never shown. One of them, a young woman named Aiko, carries a small notebook filled with family records. On the first page, in faded ink, is written Tanaka Keiko, age 12 at the time of exposure. On the last page, Aiko writes, "They called us survivors, but what we survived was the memory of what survival costs." The year also marks the 50th anniversary of the Enola Gay's flight. In Washington, D.C., a planned museum exhibit on Hiroshima sparks outrage too graphic, too apologetic, too political. Veterans protest, historians argue, and the story is once again rewritten. The exhibit is canceled. The aircraft remains on display, polished, silent, empty. Meanwhile, in Hiroshima, the survivors gather in private rooms. Their hands tremble as they pass old photographs. Each image is a question no one answers. They no longer ask for justice, only remembrance. The medical data collected by the ABCC, by now renamed and absorbed into international research, has become foundational to modern radiation science. Thousands of pages of Keiko's blood results, Kenji's marrow studies, Haru's tissue samples, all cited in journals across the world. Yet the names attached to the data are gone, erased by classification protocols. Science remembers the numbers. Humanity forgets the faces. Aiko visits the hospital where Keiko once worked. The corridors are white, sterile, timeless. A nurse leads her to a small archive room, where faded files lie bound in red tape. Inside, she finds a document stamped Confidential, 1948. Subject female, age 15. Severe dermal burns. Delayed cell recovery. Unclassified radiation pattern persistent. Aiko's hands shake. She runs her fingers over the words, half expecting the paper to hum with residual heat. Outside, the city hums with traffic, laughter, life. Children play by the riverbank, tossing stones into the water. Each splash sends small ripples outward, circles widening, crossing, fading. In the evening, as the lanterns are set afloat, Aiko joins the crowd. Each lantern carries a name, a wish, a memory. She writes hers slowly, for those who glowed so we might see. Then she releases it into the current. The flame trembles, drifts, disappears. And as she watches the river carry it away, she imagines her grandmother Keiko somewhere far beyond the light, still walking barefoot across that morning sky. The city stands quiet. The cicadas still scream. The shadow still falls the same way at dawn. The war is long over, but the light of that single second, August 6, 1945 at 8:15 a.m. still burns. Deep within the earth. Deep within the bloodlines of those who never asked to remember. By the end of the 20th century, the number of Hibakusha officially registered in Japan had reached over $400,000, though many more were uncounted, lost, silenced, or hidden by shame. As of 2025, fewer than 100,000 remain alive, most in their 80s and 90s. Studies conducted over 70 years confirmed what many survivors already knew. Radiation does not end with one generation. Elevated risks of cancer, blood disorders, and chromosomal anomalies persist among descendants. Yet the psychological toll, the weight of stigma, survivors' guilt, and collective trauma remains unquantified. The United States government has never issued a formal apology for the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The bombs, Little Boy and Fat Man, killed over 200,000 people by the end of 1945, most of them civilians, 1/3 of them children. The world remembers the mushroom cloud, but it often forgets what came after the decades of invisible dying. The children born glowing faintly in the dark, the silence of those who carried history inside their bones. And perhaps that is the true legacy of Hiroshima, not destruction, but memory itself. A memory that insists quietly, endlessly, light can burn longer than fire. What do you think about the forgotten generations of Hiroshima's survivors, the children who lived in silence so the world could learn? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.